When it comes to beating a boss, sometimes it's not as simple as just walking into their office, demanding who ate all of my Vitalite spread and then braining them with a stapler, as there will most likely be a lot of roadblocks to that glorious victory. They might hide behind waves and waves of minions, they might cover their weak spots with armor and magical shields, and they might even completely change the rules of the fight, leaving you on the back foot. These situations can provide moments of abject frustration within the player bases. They can make situations feel unfair or cheap, or "oh, get out of my life, you massive sweaty ape." So isn't it nice when sometimes the bosses actually tell you how to beat them? And no, I'm not talking about having large glowing weak spots, but when they subtly inform you through gameplay or dialogue an easy way to exploit and beat them. Well, loose lips sink ships, and I've brought the bloody battle barge. So I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 video game bosses that subtly told you how to beat them. Number 8. The Dark Prince, Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones. Throughout Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones, the titular prince starts to develop a sinister alter ego called the Dark Prince. During the campaign, he acts like a devil on the prince's shoulder, pushing him to do naughty edgelord things like, listen to Bullet for My Valentine's first EP, ooh, what a scamp. And he even takes over his body in certain gameplay segments, trying to get the goody two-shoes prince to give in to his dark side. This is also his goal in the game's final encounter, with the Dark Prince trying to convince the real prince to embrace him. And funnily enough, actually listening to the bad guy here will help you out in this case, because he actually says a few things that subtly clue you in on how to conclude this level. After defeating the Vizier, the Dark Prince will appear and try to take you over once again. This leads to the final boss battle, which basically amounts to some pretty repetitive platforming inside a bright white haze where the soundtrack is exclusive made of taunts and barbs thrown at you by the Dark Prince. However, in amongst all of this slew of stinging words is a clue on how to beat this shadowy scamp. The Dark Prince will say, "Do not fight me, set down your sword, embrace me." I mean, naturally, you'll probably ignore this because your first instinct as a gamer will be to slash the prince with your weapon, but you'll soon find your weapons will have no effect. Instead, ignoring the Dark Prince and walking up the stairs triggers the final cutscene. Plus, you get the satisfaction of hearing the Dark Prince get really salty, so it's a double victory if ever there was one. Number 7. SAREN, Mass Effect. One of the core elements of the Mass Effect series is its branching dialogue, which allows you to shape your shepherd however you fancy it. You can charm people and get them on your side, or if you're feeling particularly devious, you can chop them in the neck and steal their wallet. Both are good times. In fact, by following the former route, you can easily defeat the demon-faced SAREN by seducing him like Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings and make him forget his whole villainous crusade. However, you will need to have maxed out either the Paragon or Renegade paths in order to get these options, something which you might not consider doing unless you paid close attention to SAREN earlier on in the game. Earlier on in your adventure on Ilos, SAREN will brag about how he's changed and improved since your last encounter, before mentioning that certain doubts began to eat away at him and that he was worried about indoctrination and that he feared that he was being manipulated by Sovereign. In these moments, he's actually inferring to the player the exact words that can be used to sway him to great effect. And sure enough, you can do just that, with the correct dialogue options making his doubts bubble to the surface, causing him to blow his own brains out all over the surrounding area. It's a tragic end to a brilliant villain, but don't worry too much as he'll be back to terrify you with his second form. Number 6. Lavender Town, Escape from Lavender Town. While Escape from Lavender Town, a fan-made spin-off from the Pokemon series, doesn't contain any real boss fights in the traditional sense, the town itself is basically one giant puzzle that you have to solve, with the whole point of the game being, as the entry title suggests, to escape from Lavender Town. And at first, the solution to this puzzle is far from obvious. You'll have to wander around the town, interacting with a couple of NPCs and reading a few signs, neither of which will prove helpful in the slightest, but nothing you do seems to get you any closer to escaping, with dead-end buildings and inaccessible pathways at the edge of the screen instilling a sense of futility in your escape efforts. It's enough to make you lose your mind. But brilliantly, the clue is actually in the title of the game, Escape, because simply giving the escape key a tap will see you finish the game. And you can do this at any time, so you don't even have to waste time wandering around like a headless chicken looking for answers, which, by the game's design, you will otherwise end up doing. Number 5. GLUTKO, Link, The Faces of Evil. The Philips CDI Zelda games were... oh boy, they were something. Poorly programmed, horrendously voice acted, and animated by someone who has never seen a real person move before. These are so bad they're great classics that will inspire laughter and loathing in equal measure. Basically, like one of our lists. And yet, because they are such an arse to control, sometimes they can be really challenging as you try to dodge using controls worse than the Titanic and with a lag greater than trying to get online in Australia. I feel you, my dudes from down under. Sure, the bosses can sometimes only take 1 or 2 hits, but getting to them is easier said than done. Except for this massive idiot GLUTKO who signposts how to beat him from the off. From the second you encounter this guy, he starts going on about food. He says that he wants mashed Link for the main course, and that he's simply famished, which might seem like some terrible boss banter, but if you actually listen to him, it's the designers informing you on how to beat this bellied bastard. All you need to do is chuck a bomb down his throat and he'll wolf it down like an idiot and die instantly. It's very Monty Python in its delivery and just as hilarious to watch it happen to this green load. Number 4, Sniper Wolf, Metal Gear Solid. As the name implies, Sniper Wolf is pretty good at picking off your plums from a distance. Unfortunately for you though, that's exactly the situation her boss battle delivers, with you trying to take her on in a one-on-one sniper duel. With poor visibility and a constantly moving target, you'll need to bring your A-game and then some. Luckily, there's a much more entertaining and efficient way to defeat Sniper Wolf, and it's one that she actually hints at during a cutscene earlier on in the game. After Sniper Wolf wounds Snake's companion Meryl and lures the hero into a trap, she taunts him by saying, "It's hard to miss when you're this close," while she has him cornered at close range with her gun. The line seems fairly innocuous at first, but the clue is that it is much easier to take her down when you're close to her, as opposed to fighting in the long-distance battles that she clearly prefers. And this proves to be correct, because instead of having a dull snipe-off, simply move to the side when the battle starts and whip out your remote-controlled Nikita missile and send a few flying her way. It's really hard to miss when you can guide the explosive so close to her skin that you can practically smell her. Thanks for the tip, Wolfie. Number 3, Pagan Min, Far Cry 4. Okay, so many of you know exactly where I'm going with this one, so I'll make it quick. Pagan Min is a nasty piece of work who proves that the pocket knife is truly a deadly weapon before inviting you for tea. After witnessing this, you'll likely want to hot-foot it out of there as soon as possible, right? Well, if you listen to his words, insisting that you stay put, he'll return after about 10 minutes and you'll finish the game without breaking a sweat. Nice. Plus, it saves a ton of lives along the way, right? Number 2, Joseph Seed, Far Cry 5. Okay, so many of you know exactly where I'll be going with this one, so I'll make it quick. Joseph Seed is a nasty piece of work who puts the cruel into the cult Kool-Aid, and when you burst into his compound, you're likely going to want to put a hot foot in his face as soon as possible, right? Well, if you listen to his words, insisting that you put down your guns and stay away, he'll waffle on for about 10 minutes, and you'll finish the game without breaking a sweat. Nice! Plus, it saves a lot of lives this way as well, right? And number 1, Astrid, Skyrim. During your time playing Skyrim, you can choose to join or work against certain factions and guilds like the Imperials, the Stormcloaks, the Thieves Guild, and the College of Winterhold. All can be your allies and all can be your enemies. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. There are certain perks and advantages to working for each faction, but to join up with them, there's often a quest line that you'll need to initiate and complete. The assassin-oriented Dark Brotherhood organization is no different in this regard, and if you want to side with them, then the mission with friends like these is your ticket in. But there's a lot more to this quest line than it simply just being a way for you to join the Dark Brotherhood. In fact, by paying close attention to Astrid, the Brotherhood's leader's dialogue, you're given a big hint on a way to kill her and begin the process of taking down the organization right from the first encounter. You're first greeted by Astrid after waking up in a dingy shack, after which point she'll present you with 3 bound targets, one of which you must kill. You don't leave this shack until someone dies, she adds, seemingly not giving you much of a choice but to choose one of the poor souls in front of you and run them through with your sword. But wait, there's another way. Astrid said you can't leave until someone dies, so just kill her. Perhaps unintentionally, she's just made herself a target with her broad phrasing, and you can actually turn around and murder her as an alternative way to finish this quest, a choice that will send you down the path of opposition against the Dark Brotherhood. To quote Heath Ledger's Joker, very poor choice of words. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 video game bosses that subtly told you how to beat them. I hope that you enjoyed that, my friends, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. And if you want to do something a little bit extra for me, then why not check out my board game channel, Live and Let's Dice, over here on YouTube. And as always, you have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon.